Ever heard of model forests? They're living laboratories for sustainable forest management. And across the globe, they're proving that local action can drive real, lasting change. On the 27th of May, be part of a free online global gathering for Forest People Planet at the IMFN Global Forum 2025, live from Kemptville, Ontario in Canada. Discover how communities are restoring landscapes, supporting livelihoods, and creating green jobs. And connect with people around the world who are turning bold ideas into real-world results. It's all about scaling local solutions for global impact and showing what's possible when communities lead the way. Join us, get inspired, and be part of the solution.
you read anything? Did you read? No? Okay. So, welcome back, everyone. I think there's still some colleagues outside. We invite everyone to come inside for our last morning session. So I hope you enjoyed the break and the coffee. So please take your seats. And we're excited to start the Canopy Sessions. As announced before the break, we will dive into 3 dynamic conversations exploring fires in a changing climate, also widening participation and ways of knowing, and national policy coherence. What about that? So we invite you to take part and share your thoughts and reflections also over a Slido. We will have a bit of interaction during these Canopy Sessions, 3 conversations. So you could use a Slido here, and also people joining online will also be able to use that Slido, and we'll read your reflections throughout the sessions. To get started, I would like to invite the first panelist on the stage. Lara Stell, Emanuela Scinta, and Roberto Vides to join me on the stage. Please. Everyone just grab your... vamos a probar, ¿están todos funcionando bien? ¿Sí?
Hola, hola.
Sí. ¿Y el tuyo, Roberto? Si quieres hablar, solamente saludar.
Hola, hola.
Sí, perfecto. Perfecto. Bueno, in this first panel, we will discuss the management of forest fires in the context of a changing climate, as I just mentioned. As we know, climate change is intensifying the risk of wildfires. And according to the Global Forest Watch 2024 annual analysis, 13.5 million hectares of tree cover were lost, making a record high in recent years and causing serious consequences for the climate, biodiversity, lives, and livelihoods. While wildfires are a natural part of some forest ecosystems, as you know, fire seasons are becoming increasingly severe and widespread, even reaching tropical rainforests where such events are rare and exceptionally destructive. That's why today we have a diverse set of voices to help us explore the complexities of managing forest fires and other fires in a changing climate. So I'll invite our speakers to introduce themselves and let us know a bit about their work regarding this topic. So please, Lara, Emanuela, and Roberto, go ahead.
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. So my name is Lara Style, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm a forestry officer in FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and I'm in charge of integrated fire management for the organization. But before FAO, because I have been in FAO for 3 years. Before that, I worked for 16 years in Brazil, also with integrated fire management. And so very happy to be here and share some thoughts with you today. Thank you.
Adil Katalino, Bacuramin Kasaruga Basengat Kajubata, Arus. Greetings from my people to the first people of this land. and thank you for having me here. My name is Emanuela Shinta. I belong to indigenous community, Dayak people, the first people of the Borneo Island, and I am the director of Radawelong Foundation, an indigenous-led organization focused on forest preservation, cultural preservation, and indigenous rights. And I'm also representing JLFX Kalimantan. Thank you.
Buenos días y muchas gracias por invitarnos a la Canopy Session. Mi nombre es Roberto Vides, de Bolivia. Trabajamos en el bosque modelo Chiquitano, Chiquitania Sostenible, uno de los bosques secos tropicales más grandes del planeta y bajo alta amenaza. Y va a ser un gusto compartir las experiencias vinculadas con el tema de clima, fuegos y cambios en los ecosistemas.
Gracias, Roberto. Thank you, everyone. So I'll put a couple of topics on the table, and this is how it is going to work with the three conversations. And for you to please share insights according to your expertise, but also what you're doing at the moment. So the first would be what are some effective strategies as well as knowledge gaps for mitigating managing forest-based climate risk, such as wildfires in a rapidly changing climate, which is the component really today, and also how local knowledge and traditionally disempowered groups such as women, youth, indigenous peoples, local communities and Afro-descendants can be integrated into climate risk management to enhance resilience in forest ecosystems. So please hold your thoughts. Esperemos un momento, while we also invite the audience to contribute to these same topics that I just mentioned, as well as address any questions that you want to the speakers via Slido. So in person, you can do it by scanning the QR codes that you should be seeing on the screens at the moment. And for those participating online, you just have to click on the URL that is being shared on the chat. And while you do that, I invite back our speakers. So maybe starting with you, Lara.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. So talking about the strategies, one of the most effective strategies to minimize the damages caused by wildfires is a holistic approach. And in FAO, we are using this terminology called integrated fire management. And this approach focuses on it's a way to promote a paradigm shift from a suppression focus of fires from the ecosystems to this holistic approach that includes fire management, so prevention, suppression is included, but it's not only that, and the use of fire. But in addition to that, we have the ecology of fire, so the understanding of fire in each ecosystem. We know that some ecosystems need fire to be healthy. And one important aspect that I also wanted to address and highlight is the culture of fire. Because we have many communities, traditional communities, indigenous peoples, and they have a lot of knowledge how to manage fires on their territories. And we need to interact with them and learn from them. Back to my work in Brazil, I had the opportunity to contribute to the National Policy on Integrated Fire Management in Brazil. And this initiative started with indigenous people saying to us, governmental technicians, your approach to fire is wrong. And so in one point, we realized that this was true, and we started the process of developing this national policy and with them. And this, the law of this national policy was signed last year by the president and includes the knowledge of indigenous peoples as a core element of this national national policy. In FAO, through one initiative that we have called the Global Fire Management Hub, we advocate for this co-creation of fire governance. And where all the actors involved with fire has an active voice. And one important thing here related to communities and related to indigenous peoples is that the idea is not merely to consult with them, but actively involve them in the development of public policies. And this requires a shift in how we design and implement policies, because these policies must be built from the ground and up, with local communities as full partners and not recipients of public policies, but decision makers. So this is a very important point. Also, regarding to women and youth and other communities, they also must be recognized not only as vulnerable groups, but as agents of resilience. And for example, women often led community fire brigades or managed fire for agriculture in their communities, for food security, for health, and yet their knowledge remains undervalued in these communities and for the countries and by the organizations, or undocumented. We don't know what they know about fire management. And we must recognize and support these roles through capacity development, access to funding, and representation in decision-making spaces. Also, youth. It's, youth, they bring innovation and energy, and we need that. And it's just an example, in some indigenous territories where I had the opportunity and the privilege to work with young leaders, they are documenting traditional fire practices using digital tools and blending ancestral knowledge with modern communications. And this is really, really powerful. So in short, I think that we need to create resilient communities, and resilience is local. And the people that many times we left out of the process are the ones best positioned to lead it, this resilience process. And if we are willing to listen and share decision-making, this is the way for us to improve our strategies. Thank you.
Thank you, Lara. So thank you a lot for that. It's in this context in Brazil, and from that co-creation, just implementation with indigenous peoples, and also valuing some other groups or all the groups. I would like to go to Kalimantan, building a thread with what Lara was just saying, also indigenous peoples, youth, and all the co-creation processes that you also lead there.
All right. Before that, I would like you to imagine you are in the situation where you stand in front of your house and you look around and you see that the forest, the plants, the trees, where you grow up, where you used to explore, all turning into ashes. And you are in the situation where you are standing and breathing, but what comes into your lung is all ashes and smoke. And it doesn't happen only for 1 year or 2 years, but 27 years. That's what happened in my home island, in Kalimantan. So the forest fire started in 1997, and of course, like the community, for them to manage the fires, it's more than an act of care, but an act of survival. So we have to stop the fires if we want to survive. Because maybe for the researchers, wildfires, it's all about carbon, maybe. the amount of carbon being released to the atmosphere, or maybe we talk about the value or like the economic loss in dollars. But for us indigenous people, it's all about our lives. It's about the health of our family. It's about our spiritual connection with our ancestors. So for Dayak people, for us, we have to do any necessary means to survive, to stop the fires. Why I tell you these stories? Because I want to emphasize the importance of local communities and indigenous communities in fire management, in the climate risk management. They're not just the victims. They are the first to be affected, but also they are the first to respond. Why? Because they have to survive. So what I want to say here, when we talk about integrating local knowledge and these groups, women, youth, and then indigenous people, I think they should not be like just being integrated, you know, because I believe they have been doing so much underground, but maybe we never know because their voices are not amplified and not arrive here. I mean, I'm glad I'm to be here to bring the voices of these people, but I would say this is the right time for the global forest communities not only to integrate, but to support these local actions, like what Lara said, like the importance of these local actions. And I will say this is also the right time for us, you know, like for the leveraging, like global forest community needs to leverage these actions, both in firefighting and fire prevention as well. So we can, you know, like we can make what we call like local solution for global impact. And one thing that I want to say, I hope I have time. My organizations, you know, like we train and mobilize local indigenous youth to be firefighters. Why? Because we only rely to the official firefighters hired by government. It's not enough. The number of the official firefighters is not enough to extinguish thousands and thousands of fire spots, at least in my home island. I don't know about the others, but I believe we have the same problem. So firefighting, it's not easy. You bet your lives. You bet your lives to save not only forests, but your people. So what I want to say is, you know, all the resources, support, capacity development, and even incentives, that's all very, very important for us to invest, I will say, in these people who are the key actors in the climate risk management. I think that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Emanuela. Yeah. So everyone has to be involved because everyone is involved in their daily lives. So with that, me gustaría volver ahora a Bolivia y a esas experiencias, Roberto. ¿Cuáles serían esas estrategias de mitigación por un lado y por otro lado de integración de saberes y diferentes actores?
En primer lugar, antes de elaborar estrategias hay que tener el conocimiento. El fuego es una práctica tradicional en América Latina, en África también, pero cuando ese uso tradicional deja de serlo porque otras personas hacen cambio de uso del suelo o se expande la agroindustria y siguen usando el fuego, ya no de forma tradicional, y eso se suma escenarios de cambio climático, se genera una tormenta perfecta. Y eso es lo que ha ocurrido en el 2019. Pero debemos entender, comprender cuál es esa dinámica y esos cambios. Y es ahí donde la primera estrategia, la primera reacción es, bueno, luchar para evitar que hayan los incendios, pero la estrategia principal es conocer la dinámica del fuego, conocer cuáles son las condiciones que son los determinantes de esas tragedias, y es ahí donde comenzamos a comprender un poco esa dinámica. Entonces, hicimos una serie de estudios, un estudio de 20 años para ver cuál era el cambio, el impacto del cambio climático sobre el bosque seco tropical chiquitano, un bosque seco con déficit hídrico. Y ahí comprendimos que el incremento de la temperatura en áreas comparando bosques y sin bosque, zonas deforestadas, era de más de 3 grados centígrados, es decir, 2 veces el Acuerdo de París. Pero también teníamos que comprender cuál era el vínculo entre ese cambio y la deforestación y la fragmentación del bosque. Entonces comprendimos que fragmentos de menos de 20 hectáreas iban a desaparecer y los corredores de conectividad iban a perderse y por lo tanto afectaban no solamente a la biodiversidad, sino también a los medios de vida. Es ahí donde descubrimos que era necesario conocer más la dinámica meteorológica en toda la región. Estamos hablando de 20 millones de hectáreas, desde la franja del sur de la Amazonía hacia el Gran Chaco sudamericano, donde está el bosque seco chiquitano. Gracias al proyecto de restauración del gobierno de Canadá, logramos instalar 10 estaciones hidrometeorológicas en todo ese gradiente para tener información en tiempo real de esos cambios de condiciones meteorológicas que pueden prevenir y desarrollar estrategias de prevención. Fortalecimos un observatorio, el Observatorio del Bosque Seco Chiquitano, y con ello empezar a comprender de qué manera las condiciones climáticas, el cambio de uso del suelo, los procesos de fragmentación nos permiten entender mejor y reaccionar de una manera más rápida. Y de qué manera involucrar a las comunidades indígenas, a los jóvenes en la región rural, en la Chiquitania, en el bosque modelo chiquitano. Ahí iniciamos también con apoyo de Canadá, un proceso de capacitación, de desarrollo de algunas aplicaciones. Los jóvenes están muy interesados en usar un smartphone y es una buena vía de que las comunidades rurales, los jóvenes puedan adentrarse al monitoreo. Entonces desarrollamos 2 aplicaciones también con apoyo de restauración. Uno para el monitoreo, que se llama Ecodatos, y que luego entre el 2021 y 2023 se desarrollaron 16 eventos de capacitación, se capacitaron a más de 360 jóvenes y líderes en comunidades y técnicos, y luego hicimos una evaluación de cómo resultaba el involucramiento de las comunidades locales en ese monitoreo. Descubrimos que de una muestra de más de 360 datos, el 70% eran datos tomados por los jóvenes y los líderes en las comunidades. El otro 30% era vinculado a áreas protegidas. Eso demuestra de que ese involucramiento, ese empoderamiento, contribuye a lo que es el desarrollo de cualquier estrategia preventiva.
Gracias, Roberto. So we have already some examples also, like practical examples of how they've been not just explore with the communities, how to collaborate, but also how have you apply technology and with them, alongside them. So I'll invite you to just check some of the feedback, questions, and thoughts and reflections from the audience here. Let's pick a couple. I've seen a couple there, and we can talk about it a couple of minutes, each of you. So if you see something that you would like to address, please go ahead. But I've seen one that it was the previous one talking about what, like if you had seen, if you have examples of like local strategies that are more successful than strategies using technology, for example. So that could be one of the points. No sé, Roberto, si tú también quieres hablar de eso, ya que tocaste la parte tecnológica, but also they also wanted for you to give examples of successful interventions with indigenous peoples and local communities in managing wildfires. So I don't know if you would like to address any of those, or you saw something here that you prefer to talk about, a couple of minutes each.
De lo primero,
Sí.
a nivel de las comunidades, una de de las estrategias es fortalecer las capacidades locales en prevención y en combate del fuego. Y ahí sí, no solamente la fundación que colabora con el Bosque Modelo, sino también otras instituciones que están colaborando dentro de lo que es el Bosque Modelo Chiquitania Sostenible, han fortalecido a las comunidades en cómo organizarse, cómo luchar contra el fuego, cómo monitorear, cómo tener acciones preventivas, cómo desarrollar, equiparlas, el uso de ese equipamiento. Pero frente a devastadores incendios, las acciones que tienen que ver más con las responsabilidades del Estado nacional, subnacionales, muchas veces trascienden a sus capacidades de respuesta. Es por eso tan importante que las comunidades locales puedan tener su primera línea de defensa a través de ese fortalecimiento de capacidad. Y sobre todo las comunidades indígenas, en este caso chiquitanas, que han usado el fuego tradicionalmente y han sabido manejarlo al fuego. Pero cuando ese fuego viene de afuera, de una colonia de agricultores nuevos que llegaron o de agroindustriales y que traspasan sus límites, ellos tienen que tener la capacidad de poder generar una respuesta rápida y temprana.
Gracias. Claro. Now, I would like to, Lara, there's a question here that probably you could address in any example of how can we include indigenous fire knowledge in official fire strategies?
Yeah, I think that I can mention two examples. One is the one I already mentioned about in Brazil, when I still worked for Brazilian government. Because we heard from indigenous peoples that your strategy, government, is wrong, and we start learning from them that, for example, in Cerrado, it's the Brazilian savanna, Cerrado needs fire in some periods of the year, and we started learning this from them and implementing prescribed burnings with them. And all this work that started on the ground inspired us to, okay, we need to change our legislation, because our legislation is saying that we can't use fire in many different situations, mainly in protected areas. And we have a lot of protected areas in Brazil. So with the knowledge from indigenous people, with them acting actively in this process, we built this national policy on integrated fire management. It took a lot of time. We started discussing this, let's say, in 2008, officially in 2012, and the law was finally signed last year. So it took many years, but at the end, now Brazil has a legislation translating traditional indigenous people's knowledge and other traditional knowledge in this national policy. And another example, just to mention, I can't talk too much about it because it's not from, it's not my personal experience, but it's in Australia, in the Northern Territory. The indigenous peoples there, they led prescribed burnings, and this is inside an Australian carbon market, generating funds that are coming back to the communities. So I think that these are two great examples.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I've seen, just to close this segment, I've seen you nodding a lot. So would you like to add something to what Lara and Roberto have said, and from your learnings in Indonesia?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I hope the strategies also will be adopted in Indonesia, to be honest. But yeah, I'm just talking about like the protection mechanism for indigenous people living in wildfire vulnerable areas. I saw that. In Kalimantan, we don't have like official like protocols, but our organizations, we develop haze protection protocols for people. So it includes the use of the mask and also how to protect yourself and your family and set up your own safe room where you can have the clear air in your own house. And we also developed the first haze shelter in Indonesia, and that become the center of evacuation actually when the air pollutions become very worse, and we have like about 400 babies and elders evacuate themselves to our shelter, and we create the guide where people can replicate the shelter technology. So yes, we have that, but we try to make, like it becomes like adapted, and implemented like all across the island. And for the fire monitoring, I'm really interested what Roberto said about the use of the technology and the role of the youth. Because we, in our organization and network, we developed this village-based network for in-time report on the fire information, on the fire spot informations, so we can do the quick response to the fire. And we have this Instagram, we use Instagram broadcast channel. We have like over 100 young people from in different places that can do the reporting to us in time, real-time reporting about the fire spots. So I would say, digital technology in the hands of the youth is very powerful.
Excellent, thank you. So before we go into your final idea, conclusion to gift the audience today, I would like to read a couple of insights we have from the audience, not questions anymore, but some insights. So while you prepare your final thought. So if my colleagues could help just to get to one of the reflections instead of questions. Okay, yeah, indigenous peoples are not only victims and other groups that we mention as disempowered. They are not only victims, they are the first to be affected and therefore the first ones to respond. I think that's a key takeaway that I'm sure many of you are already implementing, but to never forget. And local and simple response is as effective and usually more accessible than high-tech tools for communities, or you can also integrate communities and tech tools from the very beginning, as the example also Roberto was given. Probably, could we have another couple comments just to read here aloud? This is a question. Effective forest fire management needs a mix of prevention, early detection, and quick response adapted to local conditions. And I think that's key in any intervention, just you make it local. No solution fits it all, everything. So key challenges include gaps in understanding fire behavior under climate change and limited access to technology for communities. So integrating local and indigenous knowledge, especially for marginalized groups, as we've been mentioned, so can greatly improve outcomes. But they must be given real authority. And then we go back to the examples you were giving, Lara. And resources through inclusive governance. And resources, that's another key topic, because you cannot act if you don't have the budget to develop the plans. Strengthening collaboration and addressing these gaps will make forest fire management more effective and sustainable. So thank you, everyone, and you also for your insights so far, and the audience for participating. We will repeat this in every conversation of these Canopy sessions, so get ready for the 2 upcoming ones. And now to close, I don't know who would like to start with a final thought.
Okay. Solamente quiero recordar algo que me pasó hace muchos años, cuando estábamos exponiendo sobre conocimiento tradicional en América Latina y adaptación al cambio climático. Estaba en Quito y yo decía, es importante integrar el conocimiento tradicional con el conocimiento científico. Y estaba en el auditorio una líder indígena de los indígenas Cuna de Panamá. Se levantó y me dijo, usted está equivocado. ¿Por qué? Me sonrojé y me dijo, no hay que integrarlo, hay que dialogar y complementarlo. Y esa fue la lección de mi vida. Eso quería comentar. Lo mismo pasa con el tema del fuego, el manejo del fuego y cómo hacer un manejo integral de los recursos naturales.
Muchas gracias.
No, yeah, thank you. I totally agree with this indigenous woman saying this to you. And in English, it doesn't make too much sense, I guess, say dialogue of knowledge, but in Spanish, diálogo de conocimientos. because this is exactly what we want, to have science, indigenous people's knowledge, and interacting and with the same value, you know, and this is so important. And I want to finish, and my final thought are not my own words, it's an African proverb that tells us, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that we human beings, we want to go far. So let's go together. Thank you.
I think we all are in the same page, right? So what I want to say just, let's push this. Let's do it for the just and rapid transformations to make the local solutions become the global impact. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Please. So now I invite you just to please join us for the next panel. Thank you. Gracias. So now it's my pleasure to call the speakers of our next panel. Shonet Eget. Sorry, I think I messed it up. I said it completely wrong. So please come with me. And Maria Stephanie Bashi Pizarro and Peter Fredrickson. Thank you. So this second panel will explore widening participation and ways of knowing. So I'm just the moderator again. So this conversation invites us to, thank you, to reflect on how valuing diverse perspective can really strengthen our collective ability to manage forests in ways that are not only just, but also reflect the complexity of forest management and allow us to shape shared visions for the future. So kind of we are going to continue with that last idea that we had in the previous panel. And with this, we have with us today individuals that bring extensive knowledge and commitment to what I just mentioned. So before going into the topics that we will address during this half an hour, I would like you to introduce yourselves. So whoever wants to start.
Good afternoon, bonjour, hello, buenos dias. My name is Peter Fredrickson. I'm the general manager of the Prince Albert Model Forest in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, also known as Kistapi-Nanik, or the Great Gathering Place. It's the homeland of the Métis and the Dakota, and of Treaty 6 territory of the Dene and the Cree. And I want to acknowledge any elders or dignitaries that have joined us today in person or online, and pay respects to both the ancestors of this place that have come before and those yet to come. And I appreciate being here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
¿Qué tal? Muy buenos días. Yo soy Stephanie Bashi, soy de Perú. He tenido experiencia en 2 bosques modelos en la Amazonía de Perú y estoy muy feliz de estar aquí y compartir un poco las experiencias.
Gracias.
Hello, I'm Sinead Eggett, and I'm the Field Operations Coordinator for the Eastern Ontario Model Forest Ontario Woodlot Association. I've been in my role for about 3 years since a change from the education sector into forestry. And I want to welcome you all and thank you all for being here as one of your co-developers on the team to put this on this week. It's been really great so far. So thanks for all being here and for having me today.
Thank you, Jeanette. So now, as we did in the previous panel, let me propose a couple of angles for this conversation. So you can share your lessons learned in very different landscapes. So first, based on your experience, what are some tangible steps you and your teams have taken to ensure the inclusion of traditionally disempowered groups, as we just mentioned before, into the forestry sector? That could be a first idea. Then second, how can intergenerational leadership be meaningful cultivated in forest landscapes. If you have any examples of how experience and diverse perspective can be integrated, would be great. And everyone in the room, again, please remember to share your reflections, your questions via Slido, and lo pueden hacer en español también, or vous le faire en français. On va essayer de prendre toutes les réflexions et les partager ici sur la scène. And for everyone online, the same, just click on the link in the chat. So, Jeanette, we start with you. What would you like to share on the aspects we've just mentioned, maybe insights on intergenerational work that you do here?
Absolutely, Kelly. So as a woman and a woman under 40 in the forestry sector, I was told many times that it's a male-dominated industry, and it absolutely is traditionally, and that there might be a bit of a fight or work to be done, and there absolutely is still lots of work to be done. But one unique thing about the Ontario Woodlot Association and the Eastern Ontario Model Forest, and what drew me there, is the membership and the value that they put on the youth and marginalized communities in their knowledge and what they have to contribute to our forest sector, and to encourage their voices be heard, because it's an important part of how we're going to continue to have sustainable practices on the landscape moving forward. Our membership, I've never shown up and had someone go, oh, you're from the office. It's, oh, you're a young person in this field, and how can we help you to pass on our knowledge and to ensure that our voices and our work is being carried on into the future, because they've worked hard for many years to get to where we are, and we still have a lot to work to do. But it's empowering youth, women in marginalized communities that are going to continue that to sustain the forest management of our future.
Thank you. Now, Stephanie, tal vez tú ahora también nos puedas contar un poco del trabajo con jóvenes, con mujeres, pueblos indígenas y entre otras perspectivas que quieras destacar.
Muchas gracias. Sí, me gustaría compartir mi experiencia desde los bosques modelo y qué se está haciendo para integrar a estas poblaciones que todavía consideramos están en desventaja. Entre el año 2022 y 2024, la Red Latinoamericana de Bosques Modelos ha impulsado investigaciones que han intentado conocer cómo es que las juventudes y las mujeres en territorios indígenas se están insertando en iniciativas de conservación y restauración y en general en la gobernanza de los paisajes forestales. Particularmente he podido participar en una de las investigaciones con jóvenes, donde en una zona de la Amazonía de Perú, donde, digamos, mi interés principal era conocer conservación, restauración, a ver qué están haciendo las juventudes. Sin embargo, la primera barrera que pude encontrar es que no necesariamente les va a interesar la conservación y o la restauración de los paisajes si todavía hay brechas más importantes que cerrar. En este caso era básicamente la educación y el empleo digno. Entonces, eso fue uno de los resultados. Otro de los puntos importantes que me gustaría resaltar es el tema de roles de género, cómo esto impide la participación efectiva de las mujeres, sean jóvenes o adultas, en las iniciativas nuevamente de conservación y o restauración, pero además no solamente en una participación, sino también en la repartición de los beneficios. También pude observar de que las juventudes, claro que se preocupaban, sobre todo las rurales, por la pérdida de bosques, la fragmentación debido al cambio de uso de suelos para agriculturas, pero sobre todo les preocupaba perder esos espacios que para ellos eran importantes para su bienestar emocional, encuentro con otros jóvenes, para la relajación, etcétera. Entonces, digamos que para mí una acción importante es la investigación para la acción, para conocer, comprender e integrar. Esto finalmente sirve de insumos para la planificación, para la ejecución, para el monitoreo de las iniciativas y que estas iniciativas desde los bosques modelos puedan recoger todos estos intereses y preocupaciones, todas estas poblaciones. Además que es uno de los objetivos estratégicos de la Red Latinoamericana de Bosques Modelos. Eso es una acción por un lado y el otro es que también desde la red se ha venido impulsando y consolidando una nueva red de juventudes de los bosques modelos, donde si bien heredan de la red mayor su visión, misión y pasión por la sostenibilidad de los paisajes, estas juventudes que son parte de esta red son súper conscientes de que para lograr eso hay que incluir, pero incluir de forma efectiva a toda esa diversidad de juventudes que todavía nuevamente están en desventaja. Esto lo han indicado en sus principios y además, bueno, están iniciando acciones a partir de comisiones que han desarrollado donde esperan intercambiar, visibilizar cuáles son esas iniciativas de conservación que integran, aunque ahora escuché que integrar tal vez no es el término adecuado, estos conocimientos técnicos, científicos, pero también estos saberes o conocimientos tradicionales de pueblos y juventudes indígenas. Entonces, dos acciones ahí que me gustaría, que he resaltado. Digamos.
Muchas gracias, Stephanie. Tal vez fusionar, vamos a utilizar, fusionar saberes, poner saberes a dialogar en español y no solamente saberes, sino acciones. Peter, so in this idea of widening participation and building on the perceptions that Jeanette and Steph just mentioned here in Ontario and in Peru, what could you tell us from your experience in Saskatchewan and beyond, probably?
Yeah, thank you. I think the important thing is that both there's a generational knowledge transfer aspect, right? Learning from elders or senior people who have that experience on the land over many years or generations, as well as, of course, the kind of passion of youth and getting them involved to both leverage that knowledge of, say, the ancestors of the local place and from the land, while also applying those new technologies to really amplify that work. In my context, Prince Albert is a settlement, originally a Métis settlement, and about 50% of the population is Indigenous. And in fact, it's a main service hub for the rest of northern Saskatchewan. It's a very big province. If you sliced it in half, we really have to serve a lot of the north. And so the issue, though, is when it comes to, say, forestry or management or planning, is it's still a bit exclusive, particularly when we're thinking about different knowledge systems and seeing yourself in the industry. While there is a very high representation of Indigenous peoples within the forest sector there, it's not that prominent, and also not necessarily that scaling up where they're kind of running the show, so to speak. So what I would call for us to do, but also to whether it's private sector or community organizations, is in our case daily and gradual contributions towards reconciliation. An easy way for that is things like language, place names, learning the traditional names of these areas, tying the stories back to the land that may have been removed or altered or lost. And looking inward at your organizational structure and governance. We're going through our own strategic plan revisions right now and trying to kind of look inward and be reflexive too. And so things like that are also included in terms of, we've heard the term like stakeholder. Well, in our context, there's stakeholders and there's rights holders. And acknowledging that they're not on the same plane, that rights holders in fact hold title to the land, the territory, in our case protected under treaty. And stakeholders are important to be there, but they just kind of get to be there to be part of the conversation. And so our role is to facilitate that and hopefully open more room for the conversation across these rights holder, stakeholder groups as a model forest. In terms of this kind of second point of engagement, what we've done is kind of like last summer, for example, youth science camps, where me bringing kind of the science side, sort of, so to speak, in with traditional land users, so trappers, hunters, in the Cumberland Delta. It's the largest inland delta in North America. In Cree there, it's called Kitaski now, like the land, the delta, and but also with elders. And so young people learn on the land about species at risk, identification, monitoring, recovery of things like bald eagle or the river sturgeon in the region. And we had an excursion where we were trying to find a northern leopard frog because there was no data on them in Saskatchewan in the federal government registry. And we checked 3 sites, and actually with the trappers and one of the youth actually found one of these frogs, so we got a picture of it. And so in that moment at that camp, we had both young people doing the work on the land and lived in real time, hands-on scientific, walking alongside, maybe biology or environmental science work with the guidance of elders and how to do this. So it's bringing together these multiple walks of life that I think both adhere to, say, things like the spirit and intent of treaty, reconciliation, and also improvement in how we weave or merge sort of thing, traditional knowledge and Western science in a more respectful way. The last thing I kind of want to say in this context is a big word we're talking about is management, right? Integrated management, adaptive, all good concepts, but I think we also have to be conscious of that management also has a lot of baggage as a term. I know at the Model Forest we're moving towards more a PA, stewardship as a concept, because we don't have tenure, first of all, over a land base per se, but also how do we reconcile what we're doing with our nations and the territory. So what I would maybe consider is what is maybe a local term or a language that can be used. One that I've come across, and I have it here, is a Cree word, miototamuin, which translates to doing it right. Another term is miopimatsuin, which is living the good life. What are those terminologies, and what is the tradition and land that language is rooted in, and how can we work with those terms instead? And so instead of managing the forest, what do we want to do right? And what does doing right mean, and by whom? And so that's what I think we try to do here.
Thank you, Peter. So language, concepts, terminology is, I'm seeing a pattern here of something we have to address in different, and how important it is also not just to communicate what we're doing, but in the relations with different stakeholders and right holders, as you just put it. So let's see if we find something regarding that on the comments and reflections that you've shared, or something else. If you also see something that you would like to talk about in here, so please just let me know, and we can speak about that. But in the meantime, I would like to, before reading any question, just read some comments that you have input through Slido. So it should not be about inclusion as an afterthought, but planning and coordinating initiatives together to begin with, respecting local needs. Yeah, we go back to really building from local to find the right solution for communities. Some great point about language, the first one. But how do we translate that in policy and law? I don't know if you have any comments regarding that, or if we are also have our third conversation is about national policy. If you have any comments regarding that, please go ahead.
Yeah, briefly on the policy and law side, many nations already have their own sovereign laws and governance over their territories. And really, at least in a Canadian context, a forestry company or any entity really could abide by their laws and still legally be aligned with that. And sometimes they aren't really that out of line with maybe provincial or federal legislation. Mm-hmm. And again, it's that idea of a gradual reconciliation. You make slight changes. I'll give a brief example. I'm working with one group where rather than the operating plans coming to the community with these maps laid out with everything that they have to point, okay, where do we cut, where do we not cut, where are these values? It's shifting the narrative that, in fact, the community already says, oh, well, these are all of our areas of concern, so that when they show up, the planners are trying to map it out, they say, oh, we've encountered an area of importance. We have to go to the community and engage on their terms to figure out how we are mapping around this. It's still in development, but it's reversing that power dynamic in practice, and eventually that hopefully changes policy.
I just also saw something that I would like Stephanie. Y dice que la inclusividad, con los datos para la inclusividad es importante, pero que normalmente se ve más información acerca de, o se recoge más en países del norte. ¿Cuál es tu experiencia con esto en la implementación de los proyectos en los que estás?
Sí, yo creo que tenemos mucha información que no necesariamente está publicada, pero creo que también como practicantes, digamos, en nuestro día a día, como personas que gestionamos iniciativas, también estamos colectando información. Creo que eso ya parte mucho de nosotros, que debemos estar como abiertos a esta información que vamos recogiendo en campo y cruzándola con la realidad. Me tocó que cuando hice mi investigación, sí, mucha de la información que encontré era en inglés, sobre todo. En México había avanzado bastante con la información sobre juventudes indígenas, y bueno, rurales en general, pero en Sudamérica tal vez muy poco, pero nuevamente nosotros tenemos esa oportunidad en el campo. Nosotros que estamos diseñando, que estamos ejecutando, estamos monitoreando las iniciativas, tenemos la oportunidad de colectar esa información y utilizarla a favor de todos, ¿verdad? No solamente a nuestro favor como profesionales, sino como un colectivo, como una red, como un bosque modelo. Entonces, más bien que por ahí la red latinoamericana brinda esa oportunidad de desarrollar investigación participativa también, con un enfoque basado en la comunidad, y eso creo que deberíamos resaltarlo y replicarlo. Lo que me gustaría comentar, no sé si puedo, tengo tiempo,
Sí,
o
sí,
hay
sí.
algo que se pasó.
Ajá.
Decía como que generalmente se piensa de que las juventudes no están interesadas en la agricultura o en la conservación, y yo pienso que tal vez no lo estamos viendo de forma tan directa, pero al menos, localmente o puntualmente en la investigación que desarrollé, si bien la agricultura, digamos, o la agroforestería, que son prácticas que se desarrollan en el territorio, no necesariamente son tan interesantes porque de repente no son bien remuneradas o están bajo un sistema todavía un poco de explotación laboral, sí es muy interesante para las juventudes el hecho de conectar con los bosques, con el hecho de que les ha generado bienestar emocional. Muchos de ellos decían que tenían interés en practicar el ecoturismo o el turismo rural en sus paisajes, en sus bosques. Entonces, por ahí que no miremos una sola práctica, una sola forma de conservar o de integrar a los jóvenes o juventudes con los bosques. Veamos cuáles son realmente sus intereses de ser parte de estos paisajes. El ecoturismo, el turismo rural era una buena forma de conectar juventudes con bosques.
Gracias, Stephanie. And I would like to go back to that point with you, Jeanette, about integrating youth and the diverse ways or approach you could use for that, and how also probably there are also connections with other type of groups or stakeholders. I don't know, women, elders, indigenous peoples. So if you could just complement what Peter and Steph have said from your experience, and if you have spotted something also that you want to address, please feel free.
Absolutely. I think what I've seen on the screen come up a few times is this concept or thought that youth aren't interested. And actually, historically, if you go back, there's newspaper clippings from the early 1900s that say youth aren't interested, youth are lazy, youth don't want to work. So it's a mindset that we carry on from generation to generation. And sometimes it's not just about them not being interested, it's do we have these opportunities available, and using that language and providing space so that they can access opportunities to get involved in forestry, to get involved in agriculture, and realize that it's not just about that traditional lumberjack in the woods, but that there's many facets of these industries that they can get involved in, and so skills that they have that they're not sure it could contribute to future stewardship could actually absolutely be a part of it. In my former career, I was an advocate and educator, and I've brought that forth to the forest sector to advocate and educate not just youth, but for issues of the forest sector, or to get more representation into the forest sector. So it's about opportunities too like this. We are all like-minded people where we want to have chances to talk to each other and come together and gather and knowledge share and exchange. And so how are we bringing these opportunities to those next generations, and so that we can connect the youth with the elders and the youth with that knowledge, so that those who have stewarded our land for so long and are very passionate about the work that they have done can continue their legacy forward, and legacy forward, and that youth know and can be empowered to do so.
Thanks a lot. And just before to close that, at the GLF, we also work. I had the chance to work with an amazing group of young people. So it's not just integrating them or teaching them or training them, but learning from them. They lead many initiatives in different landscapes all across the world. So that's something that what you just said is just working really with them and recognizing that they are also leading. So I'll read probably one or two comments from here, and meanwhile you could just prepare your final thought to close the panel. So let's see what we have there. Apart from questions, always doing an amazing job at bringing in women and girls. Marvelous. It would be great to have some examples, and probably also when we connect now afterwards during lunch and coffee breaks, just to learn from each other how are we working with different stakeholders and right holders. If we could just go to other. It is important to innovate on ways to sensitize communities for conservation, as also managers to constantly seek community insights. Constant feedback. Okay, we already addressed this one about data. Okay, probably we could, if one of you would like to address this one, can you mention specific examples of how power imbalances are counteracted when involving different stakeholders? Anyone wants to jump on that? Sí, bueno, en español sería así. ¿Tienes algún ejemplo de cómo los desbalances de poder pueden afectar ese trabajo entre diferentes grupos?
Sí, bueno, lo mencioné hace un momento cuando fui a este lugar de la Amazonía peruana a recoger información con las personas. Pude ver de que nuevamente las mujeres, sean adultas o jóvenes, cuando están en la ruralidad, tienen, digamos, tareas que las sobrepasan a ellas, actividades de más, no solamente aquellas que se involucran a, digamos, a la agricultura o a la agroforestería, sino sabemos bien al cuidado de la familia, de los hermanos menores tal vez, la alimentación y todas estas actividades o esta sobrecarga que hay sobre ellas, jóvenes, desde niñas hasta adultas y mayores, hace que su participación sea más limitada. Nuevamente, no solamente en el diseño, en la ejecución de las iniciativas, en la participación real, sino en los beneficios, en la repartición de los beneficios. Entonces, todavía no sé cómo se podría, digamos, balancear, pero hay que tener un enfoque en eso cuando vayamos a, digamos, a trabajar estas iniciativas de conservación y restauración, que no deberían contribuir a que estos roles de género sigan afectando a su participación. Exacto.
Thanks a lot. So now just let's go for a quick round of final thoughts, just to close the panel. Would you like to start?
I think that we have come a long way in the past few decades, and I think that we have a lot of work to do, but it is very encouraging today to see so many women represented in the crowd, and that we are working towards ensuring that it's not just women, but all marginalized communities will be reflected and represented in the future. And that I think that the conversations we continue to have, the communications that we continue to have, and not just speaking but listening and understanding perspective are going to be important tools in how we ensure that we continue that representation and stewardship for the future.
Thank you.
Como cierre.
Sí.
Entonces, me gustaría incidir nuevamente en buscar oportunidades para las juventudes rurales e indígenas, y esto porque si ya lo asociamos a la biodiversidad, por ejemplo, sabemos que en muchos de los territorios indígenas amazónicos, por ejemplo, la biodiversidad todavía está conservada, y la biodiversidad es buena, pero la biodiversidad y su conservación debe venir de la mano con oportunidades reales para las juventudes y para la población en general. Mientras eso no pase, la población va a migrar hacia las ciudades en busca de oportunidades, y esos territorios quedan vacíos, pero al mismo tiempo quedan a merced de otros grupos que puedan, pues, no necesariamente conservar la biodiversidad a favor de todos, ¿verdad? Sino, digamos, extraerla, degradarla, y sabemos que eso no es bueno. Entonces hay que darle el reconocimiento a quienes están haciendo ese trabajo y hay que contribuir a brindar las oportunidades necesarias para que así sea.
Yeah, I think there's been excellent things said already, and I don't need to add too much more. I think the key aspect too is that idea of mentorship and an assurance that, you know, we're here for you. We're here for the next generation of people. We want to see you succeed and do well. And I think just even if there's challenges and roadblocks and speed bumps, whatever, that you persevere, you keep going. It's our duty, really. I think another thing, and I'll do a brief little story, is I like what was talked about earlier was we're not planting trees, we're planting seedlings, and they need to be nourished and grow. Well, it's the same with kids, right? We had a tree planting project, and you know, not everyone likes to be a tree planter, let's be honest. It's kind of grueling work sometimes. But there was one girl who had a classroom phone and was interviewing people that were doing the planting that day. So she didn't really have any interest in planting trees, but she took part in the event in a way that was fulfilling for her. So in my mind, I'm like, wow, 20 years from now, she'll be maybe a journalist out, like, keeping track of what restoration activities are happening in the bush and what trees were planted there how many years ago, now seeing them grow up. So we have to notice and nourish the sparkle that we see in someone's eyes when they, aha, we found that moment, and really bring that to light.
Inspiring.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks a lot.
nan masicho. Merci.
Merci. Gracias. You have fun. Well, thank you for that excitement. We hope you can keep it throughout the day. So we have one last discussion before we go for lunch. And this is about policy coherence. It's our policy coherence conversation. So it is my pleasure to call Agus Justianto. I had lost you for a second. Please welcome him. Victoria Rachmaninoff y Colbe Soares. Latin America present again. Vale, Colbe. Well, in this panel, we will delve into, as you know, the complexity of national policy coordination. While global frameworks set important ambitions, translating them into effective national action is rarely straightforward. So from designing national plans to coordinating their execution and tracking progress. So a whole chain of actions that have to be coordinated in between different groups. And for this, I would like for you to please introduce yourselves, tell us a bit about who you are, but also the work you do in this aspect. So probably Victoria, you would like to start?
Sure, thank you, Kelly. Good morning, everyone. My name is Victoria Rachmaninoff. I'm part of the Secretariat team for Initiative 20 by 20, the regional land restoration initiative for Latin America and the Caribbean, with the goal to restore or begin the process of restoring 50 million hectares, or over 50 million, 52 million hectares of land by 2030. And as part of the Initiative 20 by 20 team, I have the honor to lead a program called the Landscape Monitoring Accelerator, along with other colleagues here today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Agus?
Yes. Very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Agus Yustianto. I'm a senior policy analyst in the Ministry of Forestry, Republic of Indonesia. Following my appointment as a Director General of Sustainable Forest Management in the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of Indonesia. Currently, I'm Indonesia National Focal Point of International Model Forest Network.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Colbe, cuéntanos.
Bom dia, buenos dias, bonjour, good morning. Wow. Voy a hablar en español, que es más fácil para mí. Yo soy Colbe, soy ingeniero forestal y estoy involucrado ahí con el tema de bosques modelos hace casi 20 años. Tuve uma experiência de trabalho em bosque modelo na savana brasileira e, además, tive a oportunidade de sacar uma maestria em CAT, aí com o tema de bosque modelo, na planificação de bosque modelo em Amazônia, que foi o primeiro bosque modelo na Amazônia, de Amazonas Tapajós. E por agora trabalho em BBF Brasil, WWF, assim como 10 anos, e principalmente com o tema de sociobioeconomia, de produção não madeirável aí, com comunidades indígenas, quilombolas, que são os remanescentes de escravos, com pequenos agricultores, aí em la parte de savana brasileira, el cerrado. Muito gosto, graças.
Gracias, Colbe. So this discussion will underscore the vital role of coordinated national efforts and the support required to turn goals into outcomes. And for that, I'm going to propose 3 angles. And as before, the speakers, we will pick what they deem is best to illustrate with examples of actions, plans, and initiatives they have participated in or are developing at the moment. So first, how have countries, and this for you, if you want to also share reflections through Slido later. So how have countries overcome the challenges of aligning national forest policies with international commitments? Not an easy one. So how are national governments also supported in achieving their goals and fulfilling their commitments through community-led action? And finally, how can local forest governance models influence climate and biodiversity policies at the national, regional, and global levels? So just as before, you are invited to share your thoughts, questions, reflections through Slido with the QR code or the link online in English, Spanish, or French. And back to you, Agus, I'd like to start just with you because we'd like to know if you could share some of this, something on this crucial topic from your governmental perspective.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, Indonesia as a nation with vast forest resources faces significant challenges in aligning its national forest policies with international commitments. Of course, this commitment largely revolve around climate change mitigation, especially through reducing deforestation and forest degradation, and then biodiversity conservation, and promoting sustainable forest management. Here's how Indonesia is attempting to overcome these challenges and the obstacle it still faces. For the key international commitments and Indonesia responses, for example, through the Paris agreements, we have a nationally determined contribution target. And Indonesia has committed to reducing greenhouse gas emission as part of Paris Agreement. Its NDC include significant targets for emission reduction with the forestry and other land use of follow sector playing a crucial role. So Indonesia will enhance its commitment through the special policy. We call it the Indonesia Voluntary 2030, meaning carbon sequestration from the sector will exceed or equal its emission. This primarily achieved through reducing deforestation and forest degradation, and then sustainable forest management, because we would like to promoting practices that ensure the long-term health and productivity of forests. And then we have a program dealing with the social forestry and forest rehabilitation, especially for empowering local communities to manage forest sustainably and reforesting degraded lands. And then we have also policy regarding the forest law enforcement, governance and trade, or FLEGT, Voluntary Partnership Agreement. This agreement aims to combat illegal logging and promote legal timber trade. And Indonesia was the first country to issue FLEGT VPA. And then we also involved in the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, or CITES. Yeah, because Indonesia is a signatory, works to ensure that international trade in wild plant and animal species does not threaten their survival. And the last one, regarding the biodiversity conservation, Indonesia is mega diverse country, and its policies aim to conserve, of course, its rich biodiversity through protected areas, ecosystem restoration, and addressing driver of biodiversity loss.
Thank you, Agus. So now, Victoria, you coming from a regional network. What's your take on this, the initially proposed topics, but also on what Agus was saying from his governmental perspective?
Thank you, Kelly. So I want to talk a little bit about the work that we're doing as part of Initiative 20 by 20 to support countries as they meet their restoration targets, and specifically the importance of policy coherence. And I'm going to do so in the context of two programs that we manage as part of Initiative 20 by 20, our Landscape Policy Accelerator Program and Landscape Monitoring Accelerator Program. And we've been very fortunate to also receive support from the Government of Canada for our Monitoring Accelerator Program, which has really allowed us to expand and grow that program. But at the core, these two programs are peer-to-peer capacity development programs for government officials that really try to create spaces of exchange. Yesterday we were talking, I think Fernando was mentioning the importance of kind of the horizontal coordination, and I would say that these programs really work on that, but kind of at the national level, thinking specifically around national policy, as well as the subnational level. So through a week kind of in-person exchange, we bring together country governments, and then I think the work really kind of continues after. We work a lot on specific bottlenecks or challenges that countries face. But I want to mention kind of a few thoughts or ideas, learnings that we've had through these programs that I think connect really well with kind of the topic around national policy coherence. The first is about the importance between coordination between ministries and agencies. So for those who work in the restoration space, this is kind of a well-known challenge, which is that restoration programs often fall under the ministries of agriculture, whereas those who have the mandates around the Rio Conventions, those who are responsible for creating the plans, reporting, often fall under the ministries of environment. And so what we have is we have the restoration programs, really those who are kind of implementing in the field falling under one ministry, whereas those who are really responsible with the mandate and creating the plans, and then we really need that connection and dialogue between the two. And so one thing that we've been trying to do in both of these programs, and especially our Monitoring Accelerator program, is bring together the focal points of the Rio Conventions, desertification, biodiversity, and climate, as well as the restoration focal points and those who are leading restoration programs in their countries, to create these spaces of dialogue. And we've had some really interesting results and kind of experiences shared with us. In our last program, we were told by some of the participants that joined, we work in the same ministry, in the same city and in the same building. But this is the first time that we've actually worked together to talk about our plan between the conventions. And I'm not saying that the countries, that these ministries aren't trying to do their job or they're not doing their job well. It's just that there's a lot of work to be done, right? And sometimes you put your head down and you work on what you have to do. And it's very hard to create these spaces of dialogue and communication and coordination. But we know that they're fundamental so that countries can move forward with a unified approach and use restoration also as a transversal solution for climate, biodiversity, desertification, adaptation, because it really is that transversal solution. I know we have not too much time, so I would like to just mention briefly 2 other points about the importance also between subnational and national governments, kind of that coordination between the two. We really see this strong need for this collaboration, coordination, and that's one thing that we've also been trying to do in these programs is to bring together regional or subnational governments with the national governments. I think in Brazil, that's been one of the most kind of powerful cases of that. In the last program, we had Pará, Mato Grosso, Minas Gerais participating, as well as the federal government. And it was really a space for the states to kind of share also the work, their challenges, because often we see this more top-down approach where we think that states need to respond to national level needs, but we really know that it's the opposite, where states need to, or national governments need to respond to state level needs, which respond hopefully to local level needs. And finally, just one last point, which is one of kind of the key components or kind of core tenets of this program is that who better can answer or help to support another country that's working on these programs or policies than another government in the region that understands really the challenges. And so that's something that we have seen, which is that the best teachers are not other institutions who can play a really important supporting role, but really trying to create these spaces of exchange so that there can also be this regional coordination and collaboration. And we've seen some really amazing cases of that. I would love to talk about that in the future, but I'll stop there for now. Thank you, Kelly.
Okay, thank you. Anyways, you can network and ask for more examples of what you're doing and also share those learnings more in depth. And just taking what you were saying a bit is also this like policy, and there are complexities, but at the end it is humans running these programs, and so let's never forget this human connection. And I just love the example that you mentioned about just not forgetting that I'm working with someone and probably I've never, or I haven't spoken with this person even if we're in the same building. And that's also how we translate these policies and sometimes complicated topics into something more feasible and tangible. So let's not forget there's humans in every step of the process. So, and with that also, Colbe, trajiste unas imágenes para ilustrar también lo que nos quieres contar, los ejemplos y del cerrado en Brasil. Entonces, si podemos tener, if we can get ready the images for Colbe. Y por favor, cuéntanos de tu experiencia y cómo se traslada esta de políticas públicas en lo que estás haciendo.
Muchas gracias. Bien. Es que, por ejemplo, cuando hablamos de políticas nacionales para intentar ahí cumplir los acuerdos internacionales que firmamos, que participamos, por ejemplo, Brasil es un firmante del Acuerdo de París. Y en términos de leyes y reglamentos, nosotros, digamos que estamos bien, porque tenemos leyes que de certa maneira intentam aí como que diminuir e como que fazer trabalhos que possam mitigar aí os efeitos do clima e de tudo, problema grande que temos que está involucrado com a deforestação. Temos muitas leis, por exemplo, não há muitos anos hicimos uma atualização do Código Florestal, que é a principal lei aí associada aos bosques e também ao uso do suelo. E desta atualização, como que derivou outras leis, do Plano Nacional de Restauração e Recuperação de Áreas de Vegetação, la ley de clima, de carbono, la ley de pagos por servicios ambientales. Entonces, em termos de lei, temos muitas aí que estão adequadas à realidade e à necessidade. Mas eu creio que o grande desafio é como implementar essas leis, seja, né, por os governos, em conjunto com o terceiro setor, as ONGs, né, por exemplo, a colega que é da WRI, eu que sou de BBF Brasil, junto com a sociedade, com as comunidades, com as organizações. E trago, por exemplo, este é grande desafio, porque você pode cambiar aí, só para ver os biomas, o mapa de Brasil aí com os biomas, você pode...
Can we go to another slide and just...
Or it's other.
Another one? This one is...
Yeah, this.
Okay.
Então, Brasil, por exemplo, aí está mapa dos ecossistemas, somos 5 biomas. A mais grande aí é a Amazônia, que é 50% do país. E muito se fala de Brasil, logo você pensa em Amazônia, mas temos outros biomas muito importantes. Este de centro aí, que é o Cerrado, o amarillo é o ecossistema mais, de onde há mais sequia, que é a Caatinga. Aí o verde mais abaixo é o bosque atlântico, e o blanquito aí por último é o pampa. Então, temos diversos ecossistemas com sua importância e que é o grande desafio como fazer essas leis, esses regulamentos que se implementem dentro de cada realidade do país. E, por exemplo, em El Cerrado, que é este ecossistema aí no meio, no centro do Brasil, é a savana mais biodiversa do mundo, é uma fonte de água importantíssima, 12 das 12 principais cuencas do Brasil, hidrográficas, 8 estão em El Cerrado, recebem água do Cerrado. Então, aí há grande problema, porque em El Cerrado já se talou mais de 50% do ecossistema, muito aí por la siembra de soja, ganaderia, eucaliptos. Então, é um bioma, um ecossistema muito degradado, é um hotspot mundial, verdade? Há uma grande biodiversidade, mas se encontra muito ameaçado. Então, vou falar, para terminar aqui, de uma experiência que temos do bosque modelo mosaico. Se pode, por favor, cambiar aí. Aí está. Este é um bosque modelo que está aí na parte sul do Cerrado, na área grande, são mais ou menos 4 milhões de hectares, e aí há como é um conjunto de áreas protegidas, são mais ou menos 30 áreas protegidas, mas há muitas áreas aí que não são áreas de produção de soja, de grande produtividade. E é neste trabalho aí do Bosque Modelo, está planificando essa parte de governança, porque há um grande conselho aí, um diretório, são mais de 50 organizações, metade são organizações do governo, e a outra metade são de organizações da sociedade civil. Há um plano de desenvolvimento para este território, este mosaico, basado em ações conservacionistas. E aí estão metidos muitas organizações comunitárias nesse trabalho, cooperativas, associações comunitárias, trabalhando com a parte de não maderáveis, da bioeconomia, sociobioeconomia, de muitos produtos aí que se acopiam e que estão produzindo para muitos, incluso exportação destes produtos, indústria de cosméticos, de medicina. Igual também agora se estão implantando redes de semídias para a restauração. Essas cooperativas iguais estão involucradas nessas redes de semídias para a produção de plantas lá e para a restauração, porque agora com o câmbio da lei para a parte de restauração há uma grande demanda por isso, e a grande parte da restauração em Brasil está em El Cerrado. Então, aí eu creio que o grande desafio é como involucrar os grandes terratenientes, os grandes produtores, para também aí nesses esforços de conservação, de restauração, que sejam inclusivos, que puedan beneficiar las comunidades locales.
Obrigada. So now that we've heard like very different perspectives and talking about very different also landscapes and initiatives, I would like to go to the comments from the audience and see what have been your reflections. So can you speak more on managing conflicts in jurisdiction between the various levels and ministries? Would like anyone to take that one on? Not really? Yes. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, like Indonesia government recognize the importance of the effort and provides various form of support, for example, through the policy framework. We are enacting laws and regulations that enable and support community participation, such as a social forestry program and the ongoing effort to pass the Indigenous Peoples Bill. And then we have financial mechanism. There is a trust fund, provides funding for community-based mitigation and adaptation project, including reforestation and sustainable peatland management. Initiatives that fund well spread it by civil society and then aim to channel direct funding to indigenous people and local communities aligned with the government goals. And then we do also the capacity building. That is providing training and also technical assistance to community groups to enhance their management, organizational and also technical skills. The last one is facilitating partnerships. We are encouraging collaboration between communities, local government, NGOs, and also the private sector to leverage resources and expertise.
Great, and someone also mentioned collaboration here. So, interesting to hear about regional collaboration also, as well as a way to increase collaboration and allow countries to learn from each other's experiences. So definitely key, not just in between actors, but also bigger entities such as countries themselves. We can just browse some other comments, just to read something else or see if there are other. Well, these global policies are useful, but are not enforced. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very important point that there's not necessarily the kind of enforcement mechanism. There are some countries that have required, kind of made their NDCs or nationally determined contributions legally binding, and so there is the requirement to meet them. But I would say that part of the issue we see is that sometimes global policies or the way that the policies are formed don't really respond to local needs. And so what you need to really do is when you're thinking about the policies that the country is creating or kind of the commitments that they're making, they do really need to respond to the local needs. And I think that's also where we see this kind of connection or need to link various scales of government. Again, coming from the international to the national to the regional or subnational to local level realities, because that is the intention of our global commitments, is to hopefully create a better, more just, livable future for people. And if they're not doing so, or if there are other factors that are maybe driving kind of the degradation, loss, then we also need to address those. And I would also, I think one challenge we see is kind of the lack of coherence sometimes, especially around incentive programs. And so we will often see that maybe a program is causing degradation. It has good intentions. It's an incentive program specifically to try to help maybe farmers. But at the same time, it's causing mass deforestation for soy. And so how do we also think about how we can kind of harmonize our programs, think about these negative incentives, which is a large discussion right now in kind of for the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, how do we remove some of these harmful incentive programs so that we can also hopefully meet these targets? Because we need to be thinking about responding to local needs, but also thinking about the drivers. It's a, challenging, I'm not sure if I really elucidated much there, but it's a challenging question.
It's a difficult topic,
Yes.
and that's why we are here trying to address it from different angles. But Colbe, veo aquí una pregunta sobre Brasil y quisieras, pongámosla un poco también como en contexto y para que la puedas como expandir en ello. Entonces, pues nos cuentan que Brasil es un ejemplo de la clara conexión que hay entre los gobiernos y la gobernanza de los bosques, ¿no? Entonces mencionan como las diferencias entre la gestión de bosques durante el gobierno de Bolsonaro y el de Lula. ¿Cómo se puede priorizar? ¿Cómo se pueden priorizar los bosques internacionalmente para evitar que que individuos, no solo como personas, pero digamos ciertas tendencias tengan tanto impacto en la política forestal? Disculpen, estaba hablando.
Sí, eso es una buena pregunta y para explicar un poco de nuestra realidad, ¿verdad? Porque, de hecho, el gobierno pasado ahí de la extrema derecha fue muy danoso ahí para la parte ambiental, para la parte social, que quitó muchas políticas y acciones que venían se construyendo y haciendo desde 2002, que Lula empezó su gobierno. Entonces, hubo ahí como una ruptura de muchas políticas y acciones, y que ahora con Lula volvió ahí con muchos compromisos de manera que en la protección de los bosques, en la inclusión de las comunidades, de los pequeños productores. Por ejemplo, Lula creó un ministerio indígena. La primera vez que hay un ministerio en Brasil donde los pueblos indígenas están representados y haciendo políticas. Es una ministra que viene del Cerrado, de los Guajajaras, los pueblos de la etnia Guajajara. Igual também com políticas de igualdade racial, que são políticas mais inclusivas e que tentam, de certa maneira, diminuir aí esses impactos e os problemas ambientais que temos, que são muitos. Somos, por exemplo, firmantes do Acordo de Clima. Um dos compromissos é que zerar a tala ilegal, a deforestação ilegal de bosques, até 2030. Nos falta menos de 5 anos. Pero, por ejemplo, há grande problema com a deforestação, seja em Amazônia, seja em Cerrado. Em Cerrado, os últimos dados aí, sigue talando aí quase 1 milhão de hectares cada ano. Então, recém foi publicado na investigação em Science que, se seguimos talando o Cerrado, em 30 anos vai haver a mais grande extinção de espécies na história, porque é um bioma muito rico em termos de biodiversidade. Então, esse é um desafio muito grande de como implantar essas políticas dentro da realidade tão grande do Brasil. São 8 milhões de quilômetros quadrados, são 27 departamentos. Então, como fazer esta conexão, este trabalho conjunto com os governos provinciais, departamentais, com as municipalidades, com a sociedade civil, como temos um conjunto de regras e leis muito bueno, importantes, mas o grande desafio é como poner-se de acordo com os governos estatais, com as municipalidades, com a sociedade civil, para que, de hecho, podamos aí resolver esse problema da deforestação, esse problema de grande desafio de restaurar os ecossistemas, que temos uma demanda muito grande, e como, de verdade, incluir a los pequeños, pueblos indígenas, las comunidades tradicionales, los quilombolas, por ejemplo, que son los remanescentes de esclavos, los pequeños agricultores, y como, principalmente, traer a los grandes productores para que cumplan sus compromisos de restauración, de conservación, de que sea.
Muchas gracias, Colby. We're about to finish this session, and for that, I would like to invite all the speakers to give a key takeaway to the audience. I don't know if, Colby, tú estabas, podríamos continuar y un poco cerrar esta idea que estabas exponiendo y dar esa idea o ese aprendizaje final como cierre y algo que también deje ese sabor de, ok, ¿qué queda por hacer? ¿No? O sea, ¿qué sería ese próximo paso para poder fortalecer esa coherencia de políticas públicas en los diferentes niveles?
Yo pienso que la palabra clave es el diálogo. Y por eso trajo el ejemplo ahí de este bosque modelo mosaico, porque ahí hay un directorio que están metidos governo, sociedade civil, pequenos produtores, indígenas. Aí há 2 territórios indígenas de los Chacriabás, que incluso elegeram a uma diputada federal, que é Célia Chacriabá, vem aí do território do mosaico, do bosque modelo. E, además, também estão, nesse diretório, estão involucrados os grandes produtores. Então, esses aí estão intentando um diálogo para que juntos podamos aí conservar o cerrado, desenvolver aí para as comunidades principalmente e implantar políticas públicas que sejam de acordo com esta realidade, que é um esforço conjunto, ONGs, governo, sociedade local. O diálogo, creio que é o principal, né?
Dialogue then on Colby's side as a key takeaway, and yours, which would be that key word and why?
Yeah, local forest governance models, particularly those driven by communities and indigenous people, exert significant influence on national, regional, and even global climate and biodiversity policies and framework. This bottom-up influence is crucial because these local models often provide practical and then also on-the-ground solutions and demonstrate the real-world impacts of various approaches. Community-led efforts are not merely supplementary. They are foundational to the government's ability to achieve its broad development goals and also fulfill its commitment, particularly in the complex and diverse landscape of sustainable resource management and climate action. By fostering a participatory approach, of course, we can also build stronger, more resilient and self-sufficient communities that are active partners in national progress.
Thank you. I would say commitment on that side. Yeah. Dialogue, commitment, and your take?
I guess listening to kind of this conversation, hearing kind of you talk about the Cerrado, I think I would say the visión integral, como the holistic vision that we need for landscape management. I think that's a really strong strength of the Model Forest Network. And I mean, what a clear case where we see more deforestation in Cerrado because of some of the conservation efforts in the Amazon, right? And so what we see is this kind of moving deforestation. And so we really need this integrated vision, this holistic vision. And I think that's one of the strengths of the International Model Forest Network is that there is this kind of integrated governance approach. And we need that at various scales, whether that's subnational, national, and also thinking between countries, right? Because ecosystems, landscapes, they don't have national borders. And so we see some really amazing examples of that collaboration, like the Tri-National Forest Pact for the Atlantic Forest. And so how do we really create that kind of integral and holistic vision? So thank you.
Thank you. Obrigada. Thank you, everyone. So a round of applause, please, for our speakers. And yeah. So it's lunchtime. Thank you, everyone, for being with us in these 3 conversations. And now, during lunch, you will have, you can pick your lunch at the tent area. Just you're invited to go there, and you will have the opportunity to follow also our landscape talks at the amphitheater at 1:15. And that session will spotlight powerful stories from across the globe, the youth leaders that I was talking about a moment ago, different stakeholders. And then at 2 p.m., we will wait for you here for the closing plenary. So please enjoy your lunch.